single time.
It's true. Every time. Hey, hi.
Hey.
How are you?
Hi. I can see your boobies.
I shouldn't. This totally requires a tank top, which I did not put on.
But
Sorry, people, there's no video tonight, but I'm telling you, my breasts are practically falling out of my shirt. It's a true statement. Yeah.
Hi.
And then I changed my nipple rings.
Hey.
So I got the shields on.
Hi.
And it's interesting because it hurts, but it's like an okay hurt. It's awesome, actually.
You like
hurts so good, as the 80s song goes. Hey, so you're listening to Intellectual Kink.
Hi.
I'm Insidious Muse.
And I'm Service Slut.
And we're sorry we weren't here last week.
Yeah.
So
I get sick.
It turns out the Service Slut was sick. And then the me was like, whatever. I'm not going to do. I was like, I guess I could scramble and try and find somebody. And I could have scrambled and found somebody to do the show. But you know what? I've discovered, here's the one interesting thing about us is that we work really, really, really well together.
Because we're a team.
We have fantastic chemistry. And it's one of those things, whenever one of the duo is not in, it's just not the same.
Nope.
It just isn't. I'm not even saying they're bad shows, and we love the people that come in and pitch, but it's not fair to them. Because then people will come in and be like, well, I mean, they were okay, but it just wasn't as good of a show. And it's just because it doesn't have us.
Right,
so it might even be better for those occasions to not have. I had one time when it was just me and the phones were down.
Oh.
And it wasn't live. We were having all the technical issues. It was a long time ago. It was really hard to fill up an hour. I mean, I was talking about 50 Shades of Grey, but still.
Oh, God.
Really hard to fill up an hour. I mean, I had a lot to say, but still.
Right.
I wouldn't recommend that.
But luckily tonight is 50 Shades of Grey is not our topic.
No, it is not our topic. It is
no.
not our topic. We're going to talk about mindfuck.
My favorite thing ever.
You know, you say that, and then whenever mindfuck happens, you kind of like get this, I don't know, like you're a dog about to be beaten or something. There's some look. I don't know what it is. There's terror, there's fear, there's like this melange of emotions upon your face.
You try not knowing French and then getting yelled at in French and then stuff.
Yeah. Well, and that is a specific kind of mindfucking in a scene, but obviously, that's awesome. You liked it when you were the dog, though. You did. And you learned. You learned. I wonder if you still know the commands.
I loved that so much. Like,
I wish I had like a stick or something or a ball or whatever. I had to make you fetch anal beads. That was fucking hilarious. I could not keep it together. I'm laughing.
I couldn't keep it together either.
It was awesome. And I forgot the French word for stick. Look, what the fuck is the French word for stick? Wehatever. It's one of those things that just doesn't come up. Anyway, so mindfuck. It's really interesting how when I was thinking about this, we love all tops, all dominants love the mindfuck. It's fun. It's very powerful. It's a very instant way to kind of, in effect, assert your dominance over a person. It's just fun. It's just fun to watch somebody else freak out. It's awesome. But the funny thing is, people are like, well, what's a mindfuck? I mean, let me be honest. If I were to go to somebody and, threaten to kill them, that's not a mindfuck.
No.
Why is that not a mindfuck? Because I'm never going to fucking kill someone. It's just not going to happen. I don't particularly want to take that karmic hit. It's just not something I want to do.
Right.
And so it's not effective. A mindfuck has to have an element of reality in order for it to be effective. And that, to me, is where you have to really understand the subtle nuances of your partner.
Oh, yeah. I think mindfuck is definitely in the vein of in that context. It's in the same vein as humiliation or race play, that kind of thing. There's certain subtleties that you have to know about your partner, and I mean, it's not even. Well, yes, it's for their safety, but another part of it is that it gives you ammunition to do all of those things.
No, I mean, it's true. And you don't have to follow through with the thing that you mindfuck somebody with, but following through, it takes your relationship to a different level, if that makes sense, especially depending on the severity of what you've threatened, et cetera, et cetera. But also, it doesn't have to be severe. Mindfucking can be so super subtle.
Yeah.
One of my absolute favorite things to do, as Little Miss Nancy will let you know, on let's say, so we're going to hit a dungeon any given weekend like we do. And I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to think about what is it that I want to do? What genre of play is it that I want to do? And the thing, and I've said this before and I will say it again, so just get used to me repeating it. The thing about Nancy is that she's not a pain slut. So I have to continually think outside of the box. I have to come up with original and different and interesting scene ideas, play ideas. Additionally, I really hate repeating myself. I really hate doing the same scene over and over again. That's just fucking boring. I hate that as a top. It just drives me insane. So then my mind goes a little crazy and I go a little out there and there's all these, oh, could I do this? Could I do this? It often happens when I'm driving or in traffic. Yay, LA. It's because what else are you going to do during traffic? I mean, you could download and listen to all of the intellectual kinks and previous love bites. That is something you could do. But if you aren't doing that, then you should think about scene ideas. Did you like that? Did you like that?
Wow.
Anyway, so then I'll be like, cruising along. I'll be like, oh, I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this. But what do I need for these things? And then I'll send Nancy a text. Nancy, I need you to get me tarps, 2 different colors of duct tape, glitter, body paint, and this list of things. And she'll be like, what the fuck?
And then it turns into, what do all of these things have in common? What is the common link?
Exactly.
It could be anything. It can be anything. And really, what ends up happening is, well, obviously, I go on a wild goose chase to gather all those items, but my mind goes on a fucking trip trying to figure out what it is. I inevitably find out when,
it happens.
It happens.
I'm always curious, are you ever close?
Sometimes.
See?
Sometimes.
How do you feel at that?
Most of the time I feel okay. Like, it's not a big deal. But then, like, sometimes I'm like, oh, man.
If only I hadn't figured it out.
Yeah.
It's like shaking your Christmas presents and trying to figure that out. And then you're like, oh, well, that's what it is. I already know. It's like you've already received the present early. That's why you don't shake your Christmas presents. That's why you don't open them beforehand and rewrap them. Don't do that.
Right. But, there's also a component of fear, For us, we've discussed, taking things to the next level and, I don't know what the fuck that looks like. I mean, I have a vague idea, but I mean, ultimately, you're the one that drives the relationship and the things that we do. So I don't know.
Oh, that's fine. I need to send you a text. Continue talking while I do.
You need to send me a text. Okay. So, I mean, for instance, we're going to do a demo next week.
All right.
On faking. And there was a point in time where I didn't like things up my ass. I didn't want to even explore that.
It's true.
And then I did, and then it was okay, and then it's okay, whatever. But now, faking, that introduces an entirely new element to putting things in or around my asshole. So that's kind of scary, And so for me, like something like that, because it's something that is for the first time, like, I don't know how I would feel about that being a mind fuck, because I'm already so fucking amped up and scared and nervous about what the figging is going to be like, that I don't know that I can balance that with the headspace necessary to welcome the mind fuck.
Well, and here's the thing about that specifically is that for that, I mean, it's a demo, number one, and people I don't know of people that often go into subspace during a demo.
Right.
It's just not a common thing. I love it that we're having this whole under the table conversation people can't see. It's awesome. They wouldn't even be able to see it on video because it's texting and then it's facial expressions. Anyway, so that's one thing. But we're gonna do a dry run, a dry run. But it's the interesting thing about this particular kind of thing in this mind fuck, and what you don't necessarily know until I'm going to say it now, is I have extensive skills in the kitchen.
Right.
So I'm going to utilize that and my sauces are unfucking believable. So I'm going to utilize that, plus my complete and total love of all things spicy. And I'm going to figure out additional things to use in said figging experiences. Me? Quit wrinkling your nose like you're smelling a fart.
So,
go on.
So I mentioned the component of accepting a mindfuck, and I'm not saying, I mean, the things that we do are consensual. It's not like you're like, hey, knock, knock, can I do X, Y, Z? But I think that, in terms of when I say welcoming a mindfuck, I mean having that suspension of disbelief, where instead of deciding that you're going to be resistant to every single thing that happens in relation to that mindfuck, just go with it. What you just sent me? Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, okay, why would she possibly need that? Number one. Number two, can I please remember if we ever had that conversation about like using that kind of thing and like what that conversation was? And what did I say? Did I say, hey, yes, let's do that? I'm so gung-ho.
No, you did not say that.
Right. Okay. So,
you did not say you were gung-ho.
Right. So that's one portion of it.
You said you had significant resistance and anxiety.
Thanks. But the other portion of it is I don't stop submitting, obviously, but I trust that whatever the outcome is going to be, it is not something that's going to harm me.
Well, and number one, I think that is truly key in any kind of a mindfuck back and forth. Obviously, you're not mindfucking me, but there has to be that element of trust. Without the trust, a mindfuck does not exist. You can't, you can mindfuck just a play partner or even just whatever, but it's not the same. Within the confines of a relationship like we have, the mindfuck has a greater depth and meaning to it. But additionally, beyond that, to touch on one of the points that you made, you can call red, or you can say, hey, I'm not okay with that. If it's legitimately something that you're not okay with, even within our relationship, which is further along than it was, a year ago and 2 years ago. It's a very different kind of relationship. You're much more a slave than a submissive than you used to be. I mean, the word is not necessarily there, but that's more of how our relationship has gone, which I don't know if that's general evolution of all relationships, but it's definitely how ours has gone. And so, but even in that world, you could still say, hey, I know I don't want my ear cut off, for example.
Yeah, please.
But those are a lot of things that are pre-negotiated in contracts or a general understanding of what are hard limits. Now, that being said, you had hard limits that have gone away.
Yes.
Because of, okay, let's, you trust me. All right, let's try this. Let's push these limits. Let's go and try new and different things. And you've done it and you're blossoming in those areas. You know what I'm saying? Yes. So, but that requires that, as you said, that trust. On the flip side of the trust, which is another kind of trust, is that you have to trust, to make a mindfuck effective, you have to trust that I might actually do it. You know what I'm saying? I might actually use the things on you that I just texted you, which were scalpels, by the way. And that is, when people are like scalpels, it's a little scary. Or you might actually for example, one of the things when I haven't predetermined what it is I want to do, because sometimes I just don't. Sometimes I get busy. I don't have time to think about it. We end up at the dungeon. I just bring all of my toys because I never know what I want to do. I will literally lay everything out. Everything that I know I can use on you. There's some things I'm never going to bring my whips out because, or sometimes I might, but I can't use them on you. I'm going someplace with this. And that is a mind fuck. It's like, fuck, she's going to use all of that? Or fuck, what is she going to do? Or let's say within that, I know there's one toy you hate and it's there and I know you can see it. That's a mind fuck. I'll use it on you. You know that. So one time we were playing and you had on the Lycra like sensory depot hood, which isn't total sensory depot. It's just, it makes it dark and it's a nice fitting and it's comfortable and you can breathe, blah, 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 blah. And it's got a little padded eye thing underneath. It's a lovely, lovely little thing. Yay, stockroom. And you were also tied to a table and you couldn't move. And I don't know what I was doing, other things. I think I had your knees bent up and there was all things going on. There was things in your vagina and electricity going on. I pulled out a whip and just started cracking it, which I know is terrifying because you have a thing. Mm-hmm. But that was a part of it. Like you were at on some level, you were like, oh, fuck, she's gonna do it. And I didn't. I mean, I accidentally touched your arm with the whip. But just so you know, I had whipped myself several times in the process. So just because you're going to hit yourself with a whip, it's going to happen, especially in a small room. So, but it's one of those things where in that moment, that's a mind fuck can be just that moment. It doesn't have to be the long game. It can be just that minute, which enhances the entire experience. I mean, for me personally, from the top perspective, the idea that I'm going to fuck with her is just it gives me the warm feeling like I'm eating a warm gooey brownie. It's just so num. It's one of those, I like that feels good. It feels powerful. And I'd be interested to see what it feels like on your side.
I think it is forcibly exposing my vulnerabilities, because there's an element of it where it pushes fear onto you. I mean, it doesn't have to be like, terror, but it could just be fear. You just don't know what's going to happen. But it ranges. It can range to that. And so I think that, there's no better way to get closer to someone than to be vulnerable with them. And I try to do that as often as possible with you, not just when there's mindfucks, but mindfucks seem to magnify that. They seem to really just expose me more than in any other way. I don't feel as exposed when I'm doing service. Do I feel like I'm in service and I'm being subservient? Absolutely. I don't feel that way. I didn't feel that way when we did the puppet play. But with mindfucks, it's like, no, this is, you are creating a situation in which I have to be that open. I have to be that vulnerable because I have to be prepared for whatever the fuck your sick mind came up with.
You say that with love, though, yes?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay. I think I'm always curious because.
But see, here's just as a disclaimer, I'm an incredibly anxious person.
That's true.
So I have to take apart every single thing that is happening or that I am perceiving that is happening, even if nothing is actually occurring.
So if something like that were to take you to that fear place in the middle of play, does that prevent you from getting to subspace?
I don't touch it quite as deeply.
You kind of hold them back.
Oh, yeah. Because while I know that you're going to keep me safe, you're not going to cause some irreparable harm, there's a part of me that feels like I have to stay grounded. It's kind of like when you were a kid and you got blindfolded. Well, maybe not you. You got blindfolded and you were spinned around in front of the piñata and you kind of didn't know what was left and right. And you don't have anything to brace yourself on. It's kind of like that. So there is a part of it that for me at least, it takes me a little bit, with other stuff, with other play that we do, there's a lot of familiar components. There's a lot of things that we don't repeat our scenes. We don't. But there are some things, certain toys or certain caresses, they're very familiar. So I get and those are cues for me to say, okay, it's like checking, you that's there. Okay. That's there. So I know I can go over here.
That's interesting. That's interesting because although that's not specifically on the topic of mindfuck, it obviously, I'm not invested in you going into subspace. It's like, okay, she went into subspace. I feel that it means that you trust me. But every scene shouldn't be that way, because sometimes it's for me, which doesn't necessarily mean subspace for you. Mm-hmm. And so it's just interesting to have that, because that means it's just more of a balance, more of a kind of a, how do I, as the top, balance those components? Because the mind fuck, it puts me into top space. Like I soar. It's awesome. But obviously it wouldn't necessarily, because you get into some weird spirally thing of anxiety and what's going on.
Well, yeah. I mean, I have that, initially. I think, a lot of it depends on, where am I going and how. It's weird because when I see you get excited, that helps. When I'm faced with like aggression and anger like that, it puts me on like really high alert. Like it is really hard for me to disassociate in any way at all. But,
and yet, some of those scenes you really enjoyed.
Yes. Which was going to be my next point. You talk about how sometimes it's not for the subspace that I'm going to get, it's for you. And I think that there are some of those scenes, you're right, they're not there for the subspace. They are there to reinforce our relationship. I do not walk around in a constant state of subspace.
That would be weird.
That would be weird. But I do walk
and then we can all walk around in subspace.
Right. But I do walk around in a constant state of submission. That does not leave me no matter where I go or who I'm with. So I look at scenes like that where I don't get subspace, but I feel like it reinforces our relationship. It promotes your role in my life for both of us. I don't have to that is something that I do have. I need that. I don't need subspace. Is it awesome? Yeah. But I need the constant reinforcement of our roles. We live very different lives outside of the dungeon, It's
grotesquely vanilla.
Grotesquely vanilla. We kind of sort of have like a family together. What the fuck?
You're that mom, though, by the way.
I'm not a bad mom.
You are. You make me be the bad mom. You make me be the mean mom. You're all not the time.
Oh my God, that's not even true.
It's true.
It's not even. It's like, no.
To give you the look like, really? We're going to have this conversation? What
my God.
What are you negotiating with the children?
What? Awesomeness. Anyways. But, in that, it is really hard for us to have the roles that we have in the rest of our life. So for me, if I'm going to miss out on subspace, but it's going to reinforce our roles, I will take it. I'll take it because we need as much of that as we can get. I'm sure top space is great for you. It's awesome, I'm sure. And so then it comes down. Then for me, it comes down to the question. What of all of this, what is it that what drives our relationship? And so for me, like I look at situations like that when we're playing, and I feel like those situations in which we're both very aware of what is happening, who is doing what, it helps that. And with subspace, sometimes it's a little hard to be aware.
Yeah, no,
you just feel gooey.
Yeah, I can imagine. I've seen it. No, firsthand, but I've seen it. Yeah, and I think one of the things. Because you can't approach mindfuck without having all of this ancillary information in your mind. There has to be you have to understand subspace and top space and your partner and when you're going through things and what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. And it can be, the best mindfucks often are incredibly subtle. They're incredibly subtle. And the truth is, they often happen in very vanilla settings because that's when in my opinion, that's when I think it's has the most impact. when, whether I'm sending you a text or we are in a public vanilla setting, not even around kinky people, which, by the way, is exceedingly rare. But when that happens, when those moments when I whisper something in your ear, and it's not even just the little goofy race play stuff that we do, but it's other things. I mean, anything like, look up there, wouldn't, you should be shackled and hogtied or whatever. I don't know, something I just
blah, blah, blah.
Or like, sometimes I just send you pics, like Tumblr pics or whatever, or I tag you in a Tumblr pic because, it's like, hey, and, I know that gets you in the gooey soft spaces and stuff. It's not necessarily a mindfuck, but sometimes it's like, okay, this is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can also do kind of the bait and switch mindfuck, which is, you set things up and it looks very predictable. You understand what's going to happen, and then you change it entirely. That's always an interesting one.
So our friend Julie over from Fearless Submissive is listening.
Hi, Julie.
She texted me and she said that her sir once mind fucked her with a fucking grenade. A fucking grenade.
Okay. Is it weird that back to that original thing? He's not going to use the grenade.
No, he's not.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I get it that's like, whoa,
well,
but
so she says that she didn't know it was shelled out and he acted like he was going nuts. And so, yeah. Right. Fucking crazy. I would flip out.
Yeah. Well, I have ammunition things. I have, artillery kind of issues, but it's an idea. You could do all sorts of things.
Again, it ranges from little fear to terror.
Right. Right. I mean, and the truth of the matter is that her sir could easily be faking some sort of post-traumatic stress because he's former military. I
could totally happen.
I couldn't. I mean, I could try, but of course now after we have this conversation, I never can.
Exactly.
It's all done. I can never do that. I can never be like, post-traumatic stress from my marriage or whatever. I don't know. But I mean, yeah, again, it boils down to a lot of different things. I mean, here's the one thing. A mindfuck should be well thought out. It shouldn't be made when one is emotionally compromised.
Oh, yeah.
Because a mindfuck is designed to tap into your partner's fears. And if you're emotionally compromised, that can go wrong very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do that.
Mm-mm.
A mindfuck is not, I'm going to take your collar off. That's not a mindfuck. That's just fucked. You have that conversation if there's something happening, but you don't, we have a mutual friend, or not a mutual friend, somebody that has somebody that has a partner who removes her collar all the time when she's bad.
Yeah.
Quote unquote bad. And that's, I mean, it diminishes what that means. I mean, what are you going to take someone's wedding ring away? Take your wedding ring away. You're not married for this week, And I've taken the collar off of you before for some very, very severe punishment.
Let's not talk about that.
No, but I mean, but those were not done in mindfucks. Those were not done. And one time I did say I was really, really angry with you, and I did say that today I felt like taking your collar off. Because I was being honest. I was telling you very honestly how I felt. And you needed to understand the severity of the situation. But it wasn't a mindfuck. It was I'm telling you, I'm truth-telling. That's what it boils down to. But, it's not one of those things, there are certain sacred areas that you don't fuck with. Even in a mindfuck. Limits, those kinds of things. Those are the areas you still don't fuck with. I mean... You and I push your limits. It's what I do. It's a thing. It's a thing. And that's a good thing.
It is.
It's a good thing to do that.
But again, that came with time,
Exactly. We didn't just meet last week.
Uh-huh.
And now you're colored and we're talking about these things. We're, as you said, you told me the other day, we're 3 years in.
Yeah.
We're 3 fucking years in.
It's crazy.
It is insane. We're preschooler in.
My goodness.
I guess moving in was just a very natural progression to where we were.
I guess so.
I mean, in a vanilla relationship, you guys been together for that long. Why don't you live together? Well, I guess we do. We live together now. Suck it, bitches. Suck it, bitches who think I can't have a relationship.
Nobody thinks that. You're the only person that thinks that.
I was totally just talking to myself on the radio there. I'm so exhausted. Say something before I forget what I'm supposed to try to talk about.
Okay. Yeah. So one of the things that when you were talking about what mind fucks are not, and I think that there is a basic foundation that you should know about what can do harm. Yes, physically, but I'm talking about emotionally. You know, we're always talking about how with different types of play, there's different landmines. And the ones for mindfuck are very similar to the ones in humiliation. Mm. You know, there are certain things that you just should not touch. Because all it takes is a few words to turn a fun time into an absolutely terrible time.
Mm-hmm. That happens in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
You step on a trigger, essentially. And, well, there's a landmine. Well, that's how that happened. It doesn't take long. And it's on both sides. I've seen it in you and you've seen it in me, and the person becomes a very different person.
Very different.
You know, it's like we snap and it's like, what? And there's no reasoning because you can't reason with that. That is a full-blown gut emotional reaction.
Mm-hmm. And you have to be prepared for that because it can happen. I mean, you have to be prepared for. I mean, that's like not even like, oh, here's, a subby blanket. Let me give you a little bit of aftercare. No, that's like big.
Pat. No, that's not. Yeah, you need. Yeah. I mean, when you're dealing with when things go wrong in mindfucks, I mean, the kind of care in handling it, it's not even just a day. I mean, it's not even just that moment. You have to, every single time for the next several times that you see the person, make sure, check in, maybe lighten up the play or no play for a while. Maybe not no play, but lighten up the play, make it specifically very fun play. You need to, because at that point, both sides are gun shy. Mm-hmm. It's not just the bottom or the top or the person that got triggered. Both sides are gun shy. So then you need to stay in a comfort zone, whatever that is, of play, of chat, of whatever, to build, to let that damage that happened, let it heal, and the truth is still there, but let it scar over, and then you can maybe try again in another way.
Right.
But you have to go through that process. You really do. Otherwise, you damage, you could do even more damage unbeknownst. And the truth is, I mean, for you, I'm sure, I know it's the same case for me, even in the top scenario. If I'm not ready, then I will be holding a lot back. And it alters the experience significantly when you're holding back, especially in BDSM. Mm-hmm. I think in BDSM is the one area where you really have to lay it all out and be truly vulnerable. I mean, it is a singularly intimate experience because of the way that it touches our hearts and minds. And that being said, I mean, when you're holding back, it's not the full depth and breadth that the experience should be.
Right.
So that's what I have to say about that. I was looking something up.
What were you looking up?
Mindfuck. Which came up to psychological manipulation. Which it is.
Well, it is, yeah.
It's psychological manipulation.
It absolutely is.
So apparently my ex-husband should be doing this show. No, I mean, it's totally, but in order to do psychological manipulation, you need to understand a little bit of psychology. I mean, absolutely. You could go for kind of the basic human fears, death, pain, well, not necessarily pain, but, my nipple, it's very sensitive.
Your nipple?
My nipple. You can go for my nipple. Go for my nipple. I dare you. But it's fun. Let's go for some other like more jovial and humorous mindfucky things. I guess there's Mr. Shea had done a class on kind of the mindfuck subby games. And basically she had somebody blindfolded and she threw out like X number of balls or beans and the subby had to find them. And she timed her. And if she didn't find one within a certain amount of time, she got a big old whack every single time, right? That's awesome.
That's crazy.
And to me, that's humiliation. But I could see how somebody could think that that's a mindfuck as well.
Right.
But another interesting kind of mindfuck is, let's say we were at a Dom Scouts meeting learning how to spank. Mm-hmm. And I made you learn how to spank, and I made you spank somebody. And you were like, I also made another one. They're submissive. And she's like, but no, do this. And it was like, but the great thing is at the last meeting, the submissives didn't even ask. They knew that they had to do it. And so, but it was so cute. They were like, how do I do this? No. Do it like this. It was just, it's so neat because they were in that moment where it's like, but I can't. I'm a submissive. I can't spank somebody. And then it's like, you're going to fucking spank somebody. And that is a mind fuck when you make somebody move out of their comfort zone.
Right.
You okay?
I'm just itchy.
Why are you itchy?
What?
Just
cause. Just cause.
That's so cryptic. Fuck.
Just
like you're
because?
making a bigger deal than it is.
No.
Oh, people. I miss my thing.
Your
Donkey.
Oh,
sorry.
boy.
I don't know. I'm so glad there's no video tonight. The goofiness is through the roof.
I think one of those other mindfucks the mindfuck fantasies rather, that also happens for a lot of people is, that being given away or being sold, and again,
that's a big fantasy for you too.
Yeah, but like, no.
You know that there is an annual slave auction in Los Angeles.
Anyways, but again, that's something that involves, a little bit of, suspension of disbelief. Why? Stop that, please.
There are people I could give you to.
Hey, lady, friend.
Say a weekend.
Hey, whoa.
I have ideas. Sorry, go on.
But yeah, so that's one of those really big fantasies for a lot of people. I don't want to get into like, well, this is the real world implication of that. But, again, it's taking something and making it seem a lot worse than what it's actually going to be.
Correct.
And I think that's what's key also is, you tell someone you're going to do something terrible to them and you do something not as terrible.
Really? Because what I was thinking really was exactly what I just said. Pretty much texting you, say, hey, after work, you're going down to the House of Scorpion and you're there for the weekend. Don't text me while you're there.
Wow.
Because you don't belong to me for the weekend.
Hey. That's not cool.
That's super cool.
That's not cool. It's not nice. It's not very nice at all.
I would give you to a mistress, though.
I know, but then saying you're not mine.
For the weekend. You're not.
I don't like that.
I'm just saying that would be the case.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, here's where, rubber meets the road, where that fantasy gets tested. And this is another prime example of fantasy versus reality.
Exactly.
Where fantasy gets tested. I mean, and it's funny because a lot of people have these fantasies and you can mind fuck somebody like, I'm going to fucking kidnap you. Well, guess what? The logistics of kidnapping somebody are fucking nightmarish. Seriously nightmarish. I have tried to figure it out. And you can't do it by yourself. You need fucking help for that shit. And a van. I don't have a van. My trunk isn't cleaned out. Anyway, no, but I mean, but there's also a really, really large fantasy, big fantasy for submissive men is to be stripped of all of their power, all of their money, all of their control, and be forced into literal slavery where they have nothing. They don't even have clothes. That's what their life is day in and day out, and they have no recourse. That is a huge male submissive fantasy. It's just not practical. I mean, at some point they're like, hey, I'm a virile, strong, intelligent man with a job and taxes to pay. If I just drop off the grid, someone's going to report me missing. You know, I mean, just the reality is it's a huge difference. And to me, there's a big difference between feeding a fantasy and mind fucking. So feeding a fantasy, sometimes I send you like Twitter pics or Tumblr pics or whatever, and a lot of that's feeding a fantasy.
Yeah.
Some of them are pushing well beyond your boundaries, and that's a little bit more of a, oh, that's scary. That's a mind fuck. It's when it gets into the fear. You have to cross beyond that level of comfort into absolute fear. Now, a man can have this fantasy about having everything stripped away, but if it started happening, then that fear would set in very quickly.
Yeah.
Because reality is like, what? Wait, what? What does that mean? I mean, I really don't get my paycheck? I have to actually give it over to you? Yes, that's what that means. Take someone who's retired, people. I'm just letting you know, that gets a guaranteed pension, because then you don't have to worry about them working. Pro tip. Well, I'm obviously reasoning this out in my head.
Obviously, wow.
So any retired people out there, hit me up, Insidious Muse. I'm awful. Thank God I don't believe in hell.
Oh, gosh.
No, but I think that's the big thing about mindfuck, is that has to have fear. It has to. We've all been in those vanilla relationships, or even non-vanilla relationships. We've all been in those relationships where the other partner threatens to leave because it's a ploy, because they want you to beg them to stay. We've all been in that. And it's like, you know, in the first, I don't know, couple times, there's fear. It's like, no, don't. And that's very much kind of mindfucky.
Yeah.
But then after that, yeah. Well, it's fucked and mindfucky. But then, you know, after the third or fourth, you're like, then fucking go, because I am done with your drama. Mm-hmm. At least that's where I go. I don't know where the rest of the people go, because it doesn't take many. I'm not even a 3-timer. It's like after twice, I'm kind of done. It just doesn't work for me. But, I mean, we've all been there where we've experienced that, and it has to have that element of fear. Once that element of fear is gone, you know, like, for example, I can only mindfuck you so many times in the same thing. Once I do it or don't do it, either you know, well, she's not going to actually do it, or I do it and you're like, ooh, that was fun. So that I have to take that off my mindfuck table. I have to start, I have to keep building up my mindfuck table, because, you know, you change, I change, your experiences change, our collective lives change, and therefore we have to evolve. And that which scares us evolves as well. I mean, we do have base fears, but I generally don't like tapping into base fears, because that has a very different reaction that I would not recommend. I mean, for example, I imagine Julie's reaction to the grenade tapped into a very base reaction. I mean, it was deep down. There was a lot, there was legitimate fear, not just for her life, but for his life. For, you know, there was a lot that had, and it's for me, that's not a positive experience. For me, that would require extensive amounts of, I don't know, therapy. You know, I mean, that's just my thing. Sorry, I love you, Redemption. But, you know, that's just my thing. And so I try to avoid the real deep, basic ones. I mean, I know your history. I know it all. I'm not going to tap into those black places. I'm not, unless I feel that on some level you can handle a component of it. You know, I'm not going to give you to a man ever.
Thank you.
That's one of those dark places. I would never do that. Even the forced hetero we talk about, I'm there, and it's entirely directed by me, and you know that. So that doesn't tap into that dark fear. There's a fear because there's a man there at all, but it's not that black place. Does that make sense? And I think that that's also when, I mean, you can go too far in any play. But in this, I mean, you really risk not just damaging the other person, but losing your relationship altogether, because it's all based on trust.
Right.
Entirely. So either I go too far and I tap into these things and you're like, wow, I can't trust her. And that starts the eventual erosion and complete, decimation of the relationship. Or I make these mindfuck threats, and don't do them, and don't do them, and don't do them. And then you're like, well, she's not going to fucking do them. And that begins the erosion of the relationship. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to kind of balance it. Play, how is this going to work? How's this not going to work? That's just my thing.
Oh.
And again, I'm strange.
No, I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you.
I don't know.
I think one of the things that helps out is having a fantastic imagination, being creative. Don't stick to what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Keep the other person's safety in mind, obviously, but don't stay comfortable.
Yeah.
It's going to make you a little bit uneasy, just a little bit.
I've been comfortable. I don't like it. And I don't know what to do about that. I'm not saying that I'm like the most skilled person on the planet. I'm certainly not. But I'm looking at what is there and what I know and what is left to know, like of skills of known play. I don't have a lot left. Makes me sad. So I don't know what that means, but I'll figure it out. I'll do something fucking wacky. That's the way that goes. But yeah, you have to. Creativity is the key, I believe, truly, to any longevity in BDSM.
Right.
Creativity, because I'm making up words now instead of actually saying them. It's one of those things where, the truth is, if we get bored with something, we stop doing it.
Yeah.
And people that are attracted to BDSM are generally more intelligent, as we went through this whole study that was done, and enjoy the creative aspect of it. We've evolved often from we get bored of just the same sex. And so it evolves into this. And then we start realizing, oh, this arouses me. And so that's kind of the impetus. And therefore, we have to continue. We have to force ourselves. I have to force myself to do things that I may not necessarily be totally comfortable with in order to continue to evolve, to grow, to change, to become what I didn't think that I could be. I never, ever, 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 ever thought we would be here doing Intellectual Kink, doing a show.
No.
Never. So it's like, oh, wow, my God, that's awesome. It's totally we're here. But this doesn't mean like we're done.
No.
We're not done. There's still more.
Just, what's next?
Exactly. What is next? I don't know.
And that is the mindfuck of life, really.
It's true. It's true. It is the mindfuck of life. And the interesting thing about that in general, mindfucks in general, is you can choose the route of anxiety. You can choose the route of excitement. That is an absolute choice. That fear is fear, and it's fear. And it doesn't necessarily have to have either of those implied in it. But you can be fear excited or fear anxious. And fear anxious, I think, is taking it not necessarily in the best road. It's not going to give you towards the best place.
Right.
But fear excited, once you have a relationship built upon the kind of trust that, say, you and I have, or some of our friends have, then you know that it's going to be a more likelihood of fear excited, because there's a shared history of good times, of enjoyment, of looking out for one another. And that's going to be more likely the case. If there's a shared history of, wow, they're going to fuck with me again, you might tend more towards the anxiety. You might want to relook at your relationship. But for me, I have to have that kind of excitement. I'm going to still get excited if I mind fuck with somebody. It's just fun. Oh gosh, some of my fun ones. Inspections. I like to inspect new boys. My favorite one was, and I'll do this quickly, was we met at a closed public wildlife sanctuary.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
Yeah, and we had never met before. We had done all this chatting on the Twitter, and I said, show up. And it was October and freezing out for us in LA, meaning it was like 55. And I made him show up and lay out a blanket and put on a hood so that he was basically blind. And then I showed up and he didn't. I could have fucking been anybody. And then I fully inspected him. I stripped his clothes off of him. I did all these things to him. I made him get on all fours. I penetrated his ass. I mean, it was a full scene. Him fully hooded. And then when I was done, I got my car and drove away. And that was it. It was a total mindfuck from beginning to end. It was awesome. It was such a great experience for me. I mean, for him too. He had a fantastic time. But it was one of those, it was just one of those once in a lifetime experience where you're like, I want to do that again. But now that I've said it on the radio, I can never do it again. God damn it. This is why I can't have nice things. But I mean, the concept, using hoods and stuff is a great way to explore the mind fuckery of play. Because obviously they can't see and they can't hear necessarily as well. Unless it's a full sensory depo hood, then they can't hear at all. And that's another way to mind fuck someone. We've all gone to those stupid haunted houses back in, high school, whatever. They're, put your hands in this, it's brains and it's spaghetti. These are eyeballs and they're grapes.
Yeah.
It's amazing how powerful the mind is at making something, whatever. We're so susceptible to feeding our minds information and us taking it someplace else.
Right.
And that's really the essential of understanding a mindfuck. Go watch some Hitchcock. That bitch, he knew how to fuck a mind. Is that what I was wondering you were texting? Oh, wow. Done.
Thank you, Amazon.
Fuck yeah. Amazon sells everything. I loves me some Amazon. It was fast. Look at that, even before show end.
Wow.
Yeah, any last final words on mindfuckery?
I just really want to reiterate how vulnerable it makes you and how that vulnerability strengthens your relationship. I think vulnerability in any kind of relationship definitely strengthens it. There's already kind of this societal fear about being vulnerable and showing your emotions and being honest. You do that and you get raw with someone. You are truly letting them in.
No, I think that, well, you took away I thought you were going to go on longer. I was going to graffiti something. It's true. And it's funny because a lot of people perceive, when they talk about vulnerability in DS, they believe that it means it's vulnerability specifically on the submissive side. And that is not a true statement at all. I believe very, very strongly that the dominant needs to be vulnerable as well in order for it to be effective. Not necessarily like you can cause me damage or whatever, but emotionally, you've seen me emotionally vulnerable.
Yes.
And did that not strengthen our relationship?
Yes.
See, that's my point.
Yes.
And it wasn't even calculated. Not everything has to be calculated.
No.
No. See? So that's the point. I don't know how I would be vulnerable in a mindfuck. I'll think about that. It's mostly you're vulnerable in the mindfuck. But it's about understanding that give and take. You have to be vulnerable to gain the trust. And then once you gain the trust, then you can fuck. Mindfuck.
Oh.
You can fuck before you trust. Fuck.
Huh?
People do that all the time. Hello, swingers parties. Hello, glory holes. What, is this why we can't have nice things?
Yes.
Because I keep talking?
You are why we can't have nice things.
Fuck you, bitch. All right. Well, we're about out of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is Intellectual Kink. Follow us on the Twitter at Kinkellectual, or I'm at Insidious Muse.
I'm at Service Slut.
Review us on iTunes, share us, give us ideas, talk to us. Talk to us, people.
We'll talk more to her because I'm not anywhere ever.
That's not a me thing. That's a you thing.
I know.
Yeah, Twitter's best for me. You can hit me up on FetLife, but I'm really sorry for all the people that have sent me messages and I haven't responded.
God.
It's nothing personal. I literally just don't check. And when I do, and they're long messages, I'm like, But anyway, so we love you all. We really, really do.
We really do.
All right. Bye.